Hi, this is Brian Lambert with Growth Matters, and I wanted to talk to you today about really driving sales in a more complex, uncertain, volatile, ambiguous, and time-compressed world, and the role that sales managers play in helping you achieve your sales results. What we're seeing in the market today is that customers have an expectation. However, the experience that they're getting from the companies they engage in sometimes falls short. The gap between the customer's expectation and what they're experiencing is the value gap. In today's world, the value gap continues to widen because products and solutions are becoming more sophisticated, and the complexity, uncertainty, and volatility in the customer's business continues to increase. On top of that, value communication has evolved, and how salespeople sell has really modernized over the last 5 years. Prior to that, salespeople could sell the thing. They could sell their product. The product had features and functions and was easy to explain. Salespeople could talk about and show the product and make it easy for people to buy. That evolved into the solution selling space, where salespeople could talk about the bundled products and services that they sold, and talk about the method and process by which the company would add value to them. It's an intangible solution, however made tangible by the process or phases of implementation and also the engagement models that salespeople could use. In today's world, buyers expect an impact or a result or an outcome. That expectation falls short because the impact and result is really the roll-up of your company's processes, capabilities, talents, skills, products, solutions, and more. The ability for salespeople to communicate that value becomes more difficult as the rapid advances in technology and business models create change and uncertainty on your side of the conversation as well as your customer side of the conversation. That outcome is difficult to sell. In response to this shifting value gap and the widening gap that exists between customers and companies, organizational leaders are investing in supporting the sales team, from sales enablement technologies to sales training to new messaging platforms, website updates, even new brands, in the hope that salespeople will be able to communicate the value more clearly. This actually creates seller burden, whereas these investments are hard to translate into the conversations that salespeople need to have. This increased seller burden actually creates complexity that salespeople have difficulty in overcoming. On top of that, organizations are really driving and hoping to drive deal sizes, do that faster with decreased cycle times, and improve win rates. Investors expect that, and leadership expects that. But there's barriers. From a leadership and management perspective, these barriers can only be overcome 4 ways. Leaders can invest in agile initiatives to overcome and respond to events. They can invest in helping sales become more effective, improving the quality of conversations. They can improve sales efficiency by trying to streamline and simplify and engage more quickly. Or they can transform and retool the sales team. All of these are at play in most organizations, where a mix of these initiatives oftentimes create burden and complexity at the sales conversation, even though there's the best intentions. On top of that, because of the time that we are in today, market dynamics are continuing to become more volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and time compressed, or VUCAT. Talent constraints continue to evolve. There's many times a difficulty in defining customer requirements. There are often competing priorities that make it difficult for salespeople to sell. There are messaging disconnects such as positioning, differentiation, truly standing out in the value communication process, operational friction between sales and delivery, marketing and sales, operations and marketing, and product teams, making it difficult for the customer to actually see the value materialize. And then all of this leads to fractured customer experiences where handoffs create friction, internal processes create friction, and also the ability for salespeople to navigate the end-to-end view of the customer experience becomes more difficult. So what is a company to do? Well, when it comes to growth, we're seeing at Growth Matters, our companies tackle these challenges in three specific ways. First, they focus on execution, or the sales process, helping salespeople target the right buyers, get access to the right buyers, have successful meetings with those buyers, create a vision with those buyers, and then close or get a business case established. The sales process work to execute becomes difficult when there are many solutions that are sophisticated and the knowledge transfer or the education required by buyers continues to increase. However, execution focus in the sales process does yield some results. Other companies are tackling an orchestration challenge. They recognize that a cross-functional view is required to help relieve the burden from sales. For example, they focus on the hire to retire process to look at how salespeople are brought on, how they're onboarded, and how they're developed over time. They also look at the manager to leader shift that needs to happen in the sales and team and even customer service teams to help sales managers become leaders to overcome the barriers that exist in this challenges and disconnect gap. We're also seeing companies focus on top of the funnel activities to bring products into the market, educate buyers, and do lead generation activities in a more holistic, integrated fashion so that sales gets highly qualified leads. And then from a delivery perspective, we're seeing operations teams support salespeople, making it easier for buyers to buy. This orchestration layer also can have an impact. However, it requires a programmatic view that some people and some companies are undertaking through more of a center of excellence approach. Another area that we're seeing companies invest in is the strategic acceleration or execution of the strategy view. This acceleration of the strategy really requires leadership, oftentimes at the CEO level or the C level, to take a look at the go-to-market and ask the tough questions around how do we execute that go-to-market. Also looking at solutions, understanding what capabilities the salespeople need to configure and how those capabilities unfold or are explained to buyers in the buying process. And then also understanding that buyers are oftentimes asked to work cross-functionally in teaming environments and therefore in this acceleration layer at the strategy level, CEOs and executives, including VPs of sales, are having hard discussions and long discussions about who their buyers really are. All of this is informed by the view of their customer and the insights that the company has. In this view, it's easy to understand where initiatives fall, and it's helpful to reflect on if your company is engaging at these levels, how that shows up to sales. Also, it's helpful to understand, are we executing, how are we orchestrating, and how are we accelerating the strategy? In those discussions, it's also helpful to understand what the role is of our buyers and how buyer-centric we really are. Are we buyer-centric or are we product-centric? And in this view, selling becomes an integrated system of value communication that salespeople need in order to be successful. Now, obviously, it's hard to tackle all this at once, and no one company can do all of this at one time. What we're seeing at Growth Matters is a focus on the hire to retire process in the orchestration layer, and also the manager to leader process by investing in the sales management team. In our opinion, in 2020, investing in the sales management team is the fastest route to performance traction. Also, sales managers can act as the linchpin between the strategy view and the execution view in order to free up salespeople, focus on the customer, and drive close rates. In that way, sales managers become force multipliers, and Gartner says that sales managers, when properly aligned and supportive of reps, can really drive 20% or higher pipeline. So in that view, perhaps a discussion internally around how are we going to grow in 2020 would be helpful. In our opinion and point of view at Growth Matters, it's really critical for companies to overcome the complexity and gain traction in today's landscape, to stop the random acts and to ensure that salespeople have what they need by focusing on what we call sales performance traction. Sales performance traction is really sales execution to gain that and accelerate the sales process and meet and exceed quota. While many companies in the past were able to market their way to their customers and go direct to their customers, in today's world, there's an integrated team of value communication in a sales-driven approach required to overcome the complexities we've been talking about and to unleash the yield from each account and territory and to maximize that yield. Additionally, to streamline the initiatives that are supportive of sales. In our view, there are 4 critical roles required to align to the sales strategy. The sales leader is responsible for translating the sales strategy into execution. The seller is responsible for executing that strategy through sales conversations to reach their customers. And the sales enablement or sales operations team is responsible for the environment for which the sales people can sell and also align to the strategy. The critical role in all of this is the sales manager. Often overlooked, the sales manager is the linchpin in connecting the organization to the customers. 1, because they have direct access on a daily basis to sellers, and 2, because they are top down, the link to the strategy, and bottom up, the link to the operation. The sales manager role is much more than just understanding what to coach or what to reinforce. The sales manager is actually the most critical role in achieving the productivity of the sales team because they're accountable for sales performance and responsible for sales results. In today's world, that execution is overcome by sales managers, but they face a challenge. Many of the times, salespeople are ones they're still engaged directly, and 2, whenever sales managers are involved, the organization is doing stuff to the sales team, not with the sales managers. There's 2 challenges with that. 1, sales managers have been too focused on actually closing deals in order to and not spending time internally. And 2, sales managers haven't necessarily been able to have those conversations internally around what their salespeople need. That's because selling and sales management are not the same job. In a lot of organizations, the top salesperson has become the sales manager, and they're not equipped to have those internal conversations to hold other folks accountable, but also to clarify their requirements in the sales process. Another challenge we see with sales managers today is that sales management is not the same thing as general or line management. Only 20% of what sales managers need is covered in a general management course. Sales management is a different mindset than sales, but it's also a different mindset than any other line manager or functional manager because of that accountability and responsibility to sales results and their access to the customer. Sales management, in our view, is the toughest job in the world. 1, because of the complexity, ambiguity, and gray area that their people live in, but 2, because of their accountability for sales results and their inability to influence what they really need to be successful. And then finally, sales management has been underinvested in. Very few companies, only 6% of the companies out there have invested in a standardized sales coaching program. And over 95% of the companies we've talked to have never had a dedicated sales management development program. Additionally, sales management training oftentimes is really just a reinforcement of what salespeople have learned. In other words, sales managers attend the sales training and then get a 1 or 2 hour reinforcement primer asking sales managers to reinforce what was taught. That doesn't allow for and account for the interoperability and the interconnected parts of the selling system and treats sales managers much like a glorified salesperson responsible for reinforcing what was taught. And salespeople are not robots, and neither are sales managers. 73% of what makes a manager successful can be taught, but it's not taught in most companies. The idea of sales management really comes down to driving the number, getting the right people into the right culture, helping people be successful in closing deals, expanding pipelines, and overcoming sales friction. And it's about driving pipeline and forecasts in alignment to the sales strategy. However, none of these aspects are taught when sales managers are brought into most companies, meaning that sales managers have to figure it out and practice on their people and practice on the customer. Sales management investments work. According to CSO Insights, where organizations have spent at least $2,500 per sales manager, they see a 9% increase in win rates, 15% increase in revenue attainment, 61% increase in quota attainment, and 4 times the leverage of other investments. In other words, when sales managers are actually engaged in the initiative process and worked with instead of done to, sales investments in operations, in technology, and in training improve the productivity of salespeople because the sales managers are invested and engaged. Also, sales managers, in our view, are responsible for executing the strategy. As you look at 2020, there are many options available to you on where to get started. We believe that salespeople have been invested in, and there's a lot of available training in the market for salespeople. We also look at sales managers as a critical linchpin between the strategy and execution. Sales managers are responsible for execution and getting the number through their people to drive client value. These are the 4 components of sales management execution and performance that most sales managers are not taught. We also believe that working with sales leadership is the key, and how the sales leadership team sets the strategy, manages the change, drives internal alignment, and engineers the sales culture is extremely important. And the more the sales managers are engaged, the better the sales leadership has traction with these strategies to transform. Also, from an enablement or operations perspective, the decision-making, talent acquisition, and talent pipeline, the efficiency and effectiveness of salespeople, and the culture and environment are easier to support when sales managers are engaged and everybody is on the same page with a common language. An example of this common language and getting people on the same page comes from our sales management development curriculum and program. In our view, sales managers need to understand that there are 9 key decisions of a sales strategy. These key decisions actually inform the day-to-day interaction between managers and reps. The 9 key decisions also help sales managers understand where we need to focus, why we're going to matter, and who is going to be responsible for making it happen. In other words, sales managers equipped to understand their market, their client, and their people, and be able to navigate these things are able to execute the strategy. In our program, we work with them as an example in one module to understand the impact of these 9 decisions on the sales strategy. These 9 decisions are provided here as a way for you to engage with your sales managers and have a strategic conversation with them as you start the year in order to, one, understand what their insights might be with regard to market, client, and people, and two, help you take a quick snapshot of what they might need to be helped along or enabled to achieve your sales strategy. We provide this as one of the 50 frameworks that we have and that we allow access to when you engage with Growth Matters. I'd like to share with you an overview of our Sales Performance Traction Suite. Our Sales Performance Traction Suite is aligned by sales management, sales people, and sales enablement and operations. At Growth Matters, we play at 3 different altitude levels or 3 different capability levels. 1, we have a diagnostic capability. 2, we have services and training. And 3, we have custom consulting. From a diagnostic perspective, we're able to diagnose management, salespeople, and the sales enablement support they're getting, and provide a roadmap of solutions and initiatives that will help you drive sales performance traction. We also recommend starting with the Sales Management Development Program in order to enable sales managers to become force multipliers of your sales strategy, and 2, enroll sales managers in co-owning the go-to-market execution and sales performance traction with your salespeople. By bringing sales managers on first and investing in them first, you gain critical allies in any transformation effort. You also have the ability through the program to listen and to share the vision and strategy of the company. And you have the benefit of leveraging over 50 different frameworks to create a common language and to create traction with your sales management team. We also have at Growth Matters other services and solutions that we're happy to talk about. And I know we covered a lot of ground today in the challenges that exist. But in our opinion, no amount of training, no amount of consulting, and no amount of support will matter without your sales managers engaged. And we'd like to talk to you further about our sales management development programs, as well as our diagnostics and alignment to your customers in order to be successful.